Well, hello again there, vinyl community. It's Jacob coming to you again from the Dallas Open Micer YouTube channel. What I've got here is another installment in the 2021 vinyl tag from Tales from the Crate. I'll be getting on to question or prompt number 6. But before I do that, I gotta go back a couple of videos. My recent vinyl haul or record haul video. I neglected to show a record, and this is one of my favorite artists. I thought I'd go ahead and inject this into this video here while it's fresh in my mind. This the Big Three from the Pablo label. It's got Milt Jackson, Joe Pass, and Ray Brown. Pablo, like Verve Records before it, was the sort of the creative baby of Norman Granz, and you know carried on in the 70s and 80s with these jazz greats who weren't making hugely successful records in terms of sales, but they put out a lot of quality work here. And I don't know if this was a Norman Granz thing, but so the Big Three, these gentlemen were all tall, so the Big Three title for this album is a play on words, referencing the height of these gentlemen, and not just their largeness in the jazz community as giants. But there you have it. Let's see what we got on here. We've got Newages, Django Reinhardt number, Moonglow, Wave. So that's some interesting variety of stuff here, and I enjoyed this record quite a bit on my initial listen. So now, as we say in the vinyl community, without further ado, I'll be moving on to this Tales from the Crate vinyl tag prompt. So number 16, that was the request to show an album you want an OG copy of, and that I suppose you know, OG is hipster lingo for, it means original press when you directly translate the meaning. It's like a code language. There's a lot of news recently. Joe Biden said, "Let's go, Brandon," and of course, when you say "Let's go, Brandon," you're not encouraging someone named Brandon. Has another meaning to it, and similarly, when you're saying an OG record, you're not literally meaning an original gangster record or gangsta record. What you're doing is in a very hipstery way. You're saying an original pressing, and I don't like hipster lingo. It was very hard saying it for the purpose of this video. It makes my tongue cramp up, and I don't like saying, I don't like the way the word vinyl has been overused as a way of replacing records. But I really have a hard time stomaching, when people say, I got an OG of this, or I want an OG of that. I just think it's it sounds utterly ridiculous, and like the young kids have a term for this sort of thing. It's what we call cringe. Now, I did, have a neighbor at one point who was an OG, and I didn't necessarily say I would want something like that in my life. He was an original gangster, an original member of the Fresno Bulldogs gang. They're in Fresno, California. The Fresno Bulldogs gang. They're a bit of an anomaly when it comes to gang culture. They successfully, I don't know how they're doing these days, but they successfully dominated Fresno, and were so large they displaced the need for some of your more famous gangs. The Blue Gang and the Red Gang. The Fresno Bulldog Gang, they did wear red. They adopted the color and the logo of the nearby college, Fresno State, and the Fresno State logo is like an old kind of cartoon, like 1940s style bulldog cartoon head, and the members of the gang, they get that cartoon bulldog tattooed on their bodies, and they would go to the student stores, the local grocery stores, the Save Mart grocery chain. You could get your local college merch. Fresno didn't have a professional football team, so in towns or cities like that, Fresno is a large city. It's certainly as large as some cities that have professional sports teams, but they didn't have one. So by default, if you want to be a football fan, you become a fan of the Fresno State Bulldogs. So the Fresno Bulldogs merch was widely available, because of the college and the football team, and the Bulldogs gang members would wear this stuff. Now the OG didn't live immediately next door to me. He was two houses down. The gentleman that lived between us was a tax accountant, or tax preparer for a H&R Block, and I never got robbed or ran into trouble with a bulldog, but I went to the H&R Block one time, and I say once was enough for that. Now the Bulldogs generally, if they weren't in the act of committing a crime, would leave you alone. I know my cousin was carjacked by a bulldog, but I guess I was fortunate to live so close to one that he didn't want trouble in his neighborhood. He would sit out on the porch, and whenever I would come home from work or come home from being out and about, he would stare me down, and I don't know what the proper etiquette is for returning the stare of an OG gang member, and so what I would do was I would look back directly into his eyes. I had less allergy problems at the time, so I didn't blink as much, which was quite fortunate. My blinking has gotten a little bit more pronounced since moving to Texas. but I think he might have perceived some blinking as maybe a sign of weakness, that he had asserted his dominance over me. But it seemed to work out pretty well. I would make my eye contact with him and hold a gaze. We'd lock our eyes, and then I think because it would be necessary to park safely. I think he understood that. I would return my eyes to the road and park the car, and give a nod of neighborly nod of respect. Not a nod of approval for his lifestyle. I wouldn't want to do that. I hope he didn't perceive my lack of hostility as a tacit approval of his wicked ways. But that was the case of it. Now, there were other folks in the gangs, though, that carried a lot of weight. The OGs certainly had the standing for being such long members, but the ones you really want to watch out for were the Shotcallers. And I mentioned I was a substitute teacher in Fresno, and I worked with a fellow who got into trouble with a shot caller in the Bulldogs gang. I had taken over a class for a diabetic meth addict who taught 7th grade history. I'd worked at the school previously, and had seen the gentleman in the staff meetings. He would eat a large bag of Cheetos, and he liked to drink the liter bottles of Mountain Dew, and he was very twitchy. He was always fidgeting around, and I was very naive to drugs, and I didn't realize at the time that he was a meth addict. I did understand his diabetes, and thought it was very, very unsafe for him to be consuming so much Mountain Dew and chips. And he would, from time to time, go into diabetic comas at work, and his blood sugar levels would go out of whack, and he was unable to perform his duties as a classroom teacher. And then one year he didn't come back after the spring break, which California is coincided with Easter, which is something they don't do in Texas. Interesting. But I took over the class for him, and at the time I was there, a gentleman that was a math teacher got into some trouble. He complimented a young lady in his class on her professional attire, and he wasn't saying you're really dressing for success. You might know this saying, like, dress for the career that you want. And he wasn't telling her that she was a modern woman who was going to break through that glass ceiling and make something of herself. When he was mentioning her professional attire, he was referring to the oldest profession, saying that she was dressed professionally for someone who was practicing the oldest profession. And she went home and told on her teacher to her family. And it's not like what you might see on the news when parents get upset. They go to a school board meeting or contact the local news. What her family did was contact a shot caller in the Fresno Bulldogs gang, and they had their own their own procedures for removing an unwanted teacher, and they announced that anyone in the gang had the green light to remove the teacher from the classroom, and so fearing for his safety, the math teacher, he spent the rest of the school year at home because he wanted to live. He used up whatever he'd been working in the profession for 20 years or so, and had very good attendance. So he had built up a lot of sick days that they rolled over. So he didn't take a huge hit financially. Imagine he burned them up at some point, but don't know what became of him. But anyway, that's my experience with the gang culture, and even as an outsider, the gang culture is not something I want to have anything to do with. So, whether it's gangs glorifying violence, committing crimes, or spraying graffiti on the freeway walls and signs, I reject that lifestyle in that community, and I reject hipsterism, hipster lingo, and I would like to push back and say, if anybody is using the term OG to describe an original pressing, I would suggest that you stop it. Just cut it out. Don't do it anymore. You look like a fool when you speak that way. You come across as a hygiene product when you speak that way, and I'd highly encourage you to stop doing that. Now I will show a record that I would like to have an original pressing of. It's not an immediate concern that I have, but I'll show you a record from my favorite artist, and it's not an original pressing. Take it out of the outer sleeve here. It's this Time Out album here, the Dave Brubeck Quartet. It's got that catchy number "Take 5" on here, and I also have quite a soft spot for the tune "Strange Meadowlark." This kicks off with Blue Rondo a la Turk. This is a 1960s 2i pressing that I purchased sealed. So early 60s, I imagine, and it sounds very good. I have another 2i copy of this that looks near mint, or as looks flawless on the surface, and this one that I purchased new in shrink just sounds so much better. So I don't know if that's the case of difference between the pressings, or maybe the other copy was played with a damaged needle that did some nasty work on the grooves. I don't know, but this sounds pretty good, and I've been quite content with this, but then over time I've heard other records that were pressed on the Columbia 6i and later on the 2i, and you could hear a difference between the two. So I thought, well, gosh, it maybe would be best to keep an eye out for a 6-side copy of this. I'd go for the stereo or the mono. I'd like to hear them both. Or as time passes, the prices on these things continue to go up, and knowing that sight unseen, a seemingly clean record may not sound all that great. I'm a little hesitant to make the purchase online, where I would feel bad about making a return. I don't like the idea of returning albums. I've done that once. I've done that once in my life. Returned an album that just didn't play well. This did bring me back quite a bit. When I've had this for a while, when I ordered it on eBay, it was back in the days when I would make a purchase, and then I would mail a check to the seller, and they would then deposit my check, and then send me the book or the record that I'd purchased. That's how time changes. But anyway, we got Time Out here, the Dave Brubeck Quartet. That is a record that I think would be mighty nice to own an original pressing. So now I've gotten to the part of the video where I normally read a joke from my joke box. I had a request from someone outside of the vinyl community to do a show and tell of what I have on the top of my record shelves, and I thought, well, why not? That could be fun. I had joked about that in an earlier video, and could be a fun thing to do. So here's the first installment of here's what I have on top of my IKEA record shelves. So I have this book by Samuel Gross. What's it called? I'm Blind and My Dog is Dead. This is 1978 pressing. It's the muscle memory in my mouth now wants to say pressing instead of printing. That's kind of funny. Samuel Gross was a New Yorker cartoonist. He was alive recently. He was elderly. I don't know if he's since passed on. Got a foreword here by the other a cartoonist, George Booth, these are great. Single panel. It reminds me a little bit of a Far Side with some dark and slightly morbid humor. And then you have some things that are just playful. You have this one. It's hard to see the visual pun here. Joke is in the center of the spine. I don't want to open this too far. The pages could fall out. You get the comic gag cartoon trope of the children with the sailboat, and then there's a little boy. He brought his lighthouse to the park. Gives you a little bit of warmth. And then here's some tasteless humor. The scientists are experimenting with seeing eye raccoons, not raccoons. Oh, my brain and my tongue are not working well together. You got these seeing eye kangaroos for the blind. Anyway, that's something I have on my shelf. I do have a lot of cartoon collections from the New Yorker cartoonists, and the old single panel fellas. That's going to wrap up our video. We're getting closer and closer to the end of this this vinyl tag. That'll be something exciting to film the last one soon. Anyway, thanks for I was a little premature with the wave there, got a little carried away, but thanks for watching, folks. Look forward to making another video for you soon, maybe even later today.